Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Just Bleed Radio. Ian Garry here. Today is Sunday, April 27th, 2025, and this is the Weekend Roundup. Hey, Layla! Layla, wake up! Layla, I'm coming! I'm coming! Oh, look at that one. You see that one? That's a big fella. Big bronze fella. Look at the size of him. You like that one? Ladies and gents, get out of that lonely chair in the corner and give a round of applause. This is the Weekend Roundup, episode 51, Just Bleed Radio's weekly recap program where we tie a bow on all the events of the weekend in face punching. Today is a beautiful day to talk fights, so as we begin, give the video a like and drop a line in the comments. All of our content is free to enjoy, just like a certain Irishman's old lady. Now that we personally like to participate around here, so let me introduce you to my tag team partners. From sunny California's Central Coast, he doesn't brag and he rarely boasts. They do the least and he does the most. You pass him a beer and he'll gladly toast. No special, BKA Austin. What do you got to say on this lovely Bloody Sunday?
You know what? It's been a great weekend. Thank you for the intro. And yeah, miss being on here talking shit with the guys. And fights didn't help, but hey, it's you gotta look at the bright side of things. Like I definitely got hammered last night, so it's fine.
Yeah, turn everything right around doing that. All right, and the other man, my brother man, a fellow with a taste for the finer things in life, like Seville orange flavored vodka and White Claws. He's got a master's degree in Triple D and a minor in casual takes. Our Englishman, DangerMouse, how are you today?
I'm very well. It's been a lovely day here in Yorkshire. I will just point out one thing: it's Seville flavoured gin, not vodka. And for my entertainment this evening, I'm sipping on a espresso martini. Very nice. Looking forward to smoking some pints.
Mouse came up with his fancy pants on today.
Yeah.
Maybe that's got something to do with I heard you tore up a certain Tapology league last night.
There's a fun story to that one, but we can get to it when we get to the fight that's involved. But yeah, I did pretty well on it.
All right, well, now that we are formally introduced, let's get super informal and talk some shit. Because obviously, guys, we do got some UFC to talk, but that's not all we watched since we last got together this past weekend. So before we get into Fight Night Garry versus Prates, why don't we peel back the curtain and give the bleeders a quick glance at what other content caught our eye in the last week. DangerMouse, why don't you go first, bud? Besides the lovely UFC program that we mandatorily had to consume, what else did you happen to watch?
My slightly delayed St. George's celebration came as the beast Eddie Hall slew the aging Polish dragon, sorry JK, Mariusz Pudzianowski. I don't think many people thought this one would go the distance. Eddie came in at a whopping 334 pounds compared to Pudzianowski, who weighed in at just 267 pounds. And that extra weight showed when Eddie landed a very solid punch, managed to get an underhook, and then he just tossed Mariusz onto the cage floor, followed him down, landed a bunch of hammer fists, some to the back of the head, which he apologized for. The entire fight took about 27 seconds, which is about how long it's taken me to say this. Thank you.
Yeah, damn. There you go.
Fucking DangerMouse, the rap god. Damn.
Channeled my inner Eminem there. Yeah, it was a bit of a cartoon fight, I guess, but yeah, a fun little one for as long as it lasted.
I know from what I heard on all the different MMA shows and stuff like that, it was fucking doing major numbers on social media and all their websites, and it, from what I've heard, won the weekend as far as viewership goes. So I caught the highlights. It was pretty crazy.
I saw something, I didn't investigate it, about the website crashing just before the fight was about to start. So it must have had some traffic.
Yeah. Oh, that's the whole reason I missed it, is because the website that I happened to be watching on did not want to cooperate. So.
Yeah.
Did you catch it, Austin? See Eddie Hall fucking flop puds?
I did not have a Twitter account, but I didn't need one because it was posted for me. Thank you to our fellow Discord members who happened to do this very gracious deed. All 27 seconds of it. It was great. It was great. I had a great time. Felt like I was watching a throwback to Pride, where it's just like, yeah, let's just throw some fucking, gorillas inside of a cage and see what happens.
I did. The
But
introductions were really good. Go ahead.
I believe it. Yeah. I was just saying, I didn't watch any other combat sport, but that one I had to see.
The introductions especially were pretty fucking cool. They had like a nice like overhead like blue light, and their ring announcer guy wears the little like almost like the glasses in the professional. Cool looking fucking dude. But yeah, it was a spectacle. Definitely a spectacle. Jed Mashu enjoyed it. Yeah. But anyway, how about you, Austin? I know you're busy and always on the go, but any slow moments this week where you got to sit down and catch anything good? Fights, movies, a game, whatever.
You know what? It's been busy at the house as of late, packing up and everything like that, looking at places. But I did get to catch a movie with the wife. It's called Havoc, and it's on Netflix. It's got Tom Hardy, and Luke will probably like this, but it's got the same director as The Raid and The Raid 2 and The Night Comes For Us. So definitely all action, a little lacking in story, a little lacking in dialogue, but hey, if you like just straight up like, bloodshed, it works pretty well. Yeah, can't go wrong with it.
The first ever JBR movie recommendation.
Yeah.
Science, I don't know what else to give you.
No, it's good. I'm glad. I guess that just leaves me. For me, I gotta throw it back to Friday night, where UFC Fight Pass and a hell of an event from the regional promotion Tough Enough. Despite some absolutely horrendous work on commentary, the fights really delivered some very fun scraps. And then in a crazy moment, a heavyweight fella named O'Shea Jordan hit a fucking earth shaker of a head kick, knocked out this fucking dude that he was facing. I can't remember the guy's name, but a very Leon Edwards-esque head kick from a heavyweight, no less. So fucking phenomenal. Just flattened this dude. Reminded me a bit of Crow Cop. So if you have UFC Fight Pass, go back and check out the Tough Enough event from last weekend and watch O'Shea Jordan's KO, or just look on YouTube. There you can find the short of it. And Jesus, man, he fucking walloped that guy.
I think I saw that clip in the highlight section of the Discord somewhere.
It's not often you see a heavyweight be able to get his leg up like that. All right, dudes. Well, why don't we get on into this show now? We'll start our actual UFC talk with the main card opener, kicking off in the middleweight division. 32-year-old Russian Ikram Aliskerov made the walk for the first time since June of last year to take on Brazil's Andre Muniz, who hadn't competed himself since December of 2023. Two fairly long layoffs for two men in their 30s, which presented plenty of questions for how the fight would play out. Let's just say it played out well for Aliskerov, who rights the ship on his career with a sneaky left to the temple of Muniz, followed by some Donkey Kong-style ground and pound. The temple shot really sent Andre reeling, and it was pretty easy work for him after that with the finishing blows. But no special. Let's get you in on this first. A nice bounce back for Aliskerov after dropping one to your guy, Bobby Knuckles. He gets himself back on the title trail, possibly with this win. What did you think of this one?
Well, I mean, like, it's been a tale of Aliskerov just kind of booping people, right? And just finding the button, and then they go down, and then he just finishes them. He doesn't make it look like it's super difficult when he lands either. Like, if you remember how he landed on a couple of guys going into the Robert Whittaker fight, it kind of looked like Ikram was just kind of like the next guy in the division, and then Robert kind of took him on a week's notice, which was a bad decision ultimately for Ikram, and proved that there are levels in this game, right? And I don't know how that fight would have gone regardless, but I think Rob still would have pulled it out without a doubt. And then going into this fight, he took on a fairly layup of an opponent. Muniz was coming off of a couple of losses himself. He hadn't looked like he'd been a guy that you would kind of remembered. Oh yeah, that dude took off, Jacare's arm at one point. And he's been on a bit of a skid as of late. I think they both needed time off. Unfortunately, one of them came back better than the other one, and I think that's a great thing for Ikram. Just get back on the horse, take guys as you can get them. It doesn't matter if they're ranked or not. Just get fights. Right now, you just got to get back on the horse. As far as Muniz, this is probably a sign that he is no longer UFC capable, and we might see him on the regional scene or even in PFL.
Yeah, and I think that I'm not sure we'll see him back any sooner, but I would say that we don't see Aliskerov back any later than the September, October, like Middle East cards. I think that they're definitely going to have to slot him in there at the latest.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, all right. Well, DangerMouse, pretty easy win for the Russian here at 185. Heavy hands, like Austin was saying, and no shortage of killer instinct. Now 16-2 and still only 32 years old. Anything strike you in this fight?
Well, first off, I just have to say at the start of the main card, Laura Sanko rocking the pinstripe, and I didn't know you had to wear a tie in Kansas City. Apparently, she did.
She did look good. She looked sharp.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she pulled it off. This fight. First off, Muniz wins by award for entry music, blasting out till I collapse, which is what he did about 6 minutes later. But yeah, great choice.
How dare you?
6 minutes, Slim Shady. Yeah, 6 minutes, Slim Shady. You're on. Aliskerov with the touch of death. That didn't look like a hard shot that he landed, but he just hit the off button on Muniz's temple. And then I watched it back several times, and it kind of reminds me of a fencing move. He sort of feinted a jab to the body, and then he just circled back and came over Muniz's arm and touched his temple. And that's, if you look at any fencing, that's like a classic riposte. And it was just a beautiful thing to see. Couldn't ask for any more from Aliskerov on that one, really. I know we had to follow it up with a little bit of ground and pound, but it is what it is. Everyone seems to think he's going to wrestle, but he seems much more interested in doing the striking thing. Yeah, onwards and upwards, I guess, for him. I haven't checked his ranking or anything, but as you said, Saudi Arabia or Middle East card in the autumn seems very logical.
Yeah, definitely slot him in somewhere, Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia when the Riyadh season kicks back off. Yeah, he's definitely it's nice to see him get back on track because, like I said, he still is only 30 years old. So middleweight always is a wide open division, even as you begin to age up a little bit. So, soon some of the older generation could be fading out, and we're going to need some guys like him that are going to be rounding into form.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, next bout would see 170-pound divisional staples tangle when Jamaican sensation Rude Boy Randy Brown met with literal mouth breather Nicholas Dalby. Brown was looking to get back in the win column after he lost a splitty to Brian Battle in his last outing this past December. Dalby, now 40 years old, Jesus, also coming off a split decision loss, his to Renat Fakhretdinov last summer. The two wily veterans squaring up, with this marking Brown's 20th fight in the UFC and Dalby's 14th. Could either man overcome their recent run of close fights? That was my question. Survey says an emphatic yes. Rude Boy becomes the first man to stop the Danish Dynamite in 30 career fights. Absolutely pinpoint strikes, keeping Nicholas at the end of his shots like whips. He manages to turn Dalby's nose into a cavatappi pasta noodle at the end of the first and finishes cooking him in the second. I fucked it up again the second time, and I'm not redoing it.
No idea what that pasta is.
Anyways, DangerMouse, Nicholas Dalby can now smell in different directions, and for once, his abnormal breathing isn't his own doing. What did you think of this faceplant finish and early KO of the year contender?
Yeah, well, I figured Randy was going to win this one. He had the huge reach advantage. He's the younger fighter. I just didn't expect him to crack Dalby's iron jaw or rearrange his nose across his face with that right hook. It looked like he just clipped him right on the end of it, and it just splattered his nose across his face. Dalby did manage to drop Randy with that straight right at the end of the first round, finished the round in top position, and I was thinking, oh, how's this fight going to go now? And then round 2, just what a round. Dalby was bringing it. Rude Boy stayed cool. He buckled Dalby's leg a couple of times, and then he landed, and I'll quote Laura Sanko, a right hook for the ages. Yeah, Dalby just face planted onto the canvas. It's one of those knockouts you go, oh yeah, he's unconscious. He's not getting up. You can see it instantly. It went to be fight of the night, and it absolutely deserved to be so. I'm not sure where Randy Brown's ranked at the moment, but yeah, get him another fight. And Nicholas Dalby, if he's 40, I guess if he wants to fight again, he can do. But I don't know what's in the future for him. Nothing big, that is for sure.
Yeah, Randy Brown not ranked. I was watching. Shout out to One More Round Fights and our guy Gaff, formerly of MK and now of the Mid-Card Minute watch alongs. But I was watching his recap show earlier today, and he did his fighter spotlight on Randy Brown. And as I was watching it, he was rattling off some of the opponents that Rude Boy has faced since his time in the coming into the UFC, and just an absolute murderer's row, a who's who of tough guys at welterweight. And he has not had an easy run, so he may not be ranked, but the guy's just a fucking fun fighter to watch, very dangerous on any given night. And yeah, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't help thinking he really should. What's his name? Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson should move up to welterweight and fight this guy. Pair of lanky boys just try and beat the shit out of each other.
Very
No.
similar, yeah. But yeah, I was just gonna say last thing. I think he was very deserving of that fight of the night award. I'm glad that both these men got a bonus from that. But I think this may have been a rare case where he should also got a knockout of the night award or a performance bonus, because that was you don't see too many face plants. But anyways, same for special early in 2025 still, but obviously a contender for KO of the year. Not often we see someone skid face first across the mat with their nose shaped like a cursive letter. Whew. So give us your thoughts on the fight and the finish.
Well, Randy has been that dude that's kind of like win one, lose one, win two, lose one. He gets on a streak and then he, flubs it at the end, to a tough opponent. Either the cards don't go his way or it gets caught in, against a really good fighter. This division's tough, man, and on top of it, too, he took on a guy who was just tough as nails, Nicholas Dalby. I mean, hell, the minute like you saw the nose like broken, you could tell it was gone, and it's like you can't just see Dalby's face. He's like smirking. He's all, "You son of a bitch, you got me," but he still kept fighting. He didn't freak out about it, right? And then he drops him like Mal said at the end of the first, and I'm like, "Oh shit, no!" He's coming back. You can't stay in front of him. Sure enough, Randy said, "Nah, fuck that. I'm gonna take this son of a bitch out." Swinging and banging for a good couple of minutes, and then just catches him right at the end of that, like straight right, and just fucking deads him. Immediately gone. And yeah, Randy should have probably got a performance, and if it not a, they should have gotten fight of the night, and I think they did. And what they should have also given Randy was a knockout, performance, because damn, dude, like that was probably the best fight of the card, And the thing is that the UFC wants to kind of do this thing where like, hey, we don't really know what to give fight of the night anymore because we're kind of being, pity pitching. No, fuck that, dude. You guys make over $1 billion a year. Fuck you guys. You guys should be able to pay these guys a little bit more. Who gives a shit? Anywho, Randy's last loss, though, if I remember correctly, was to discount Forrest Griffin inside the division. And I thought he won that fight. Discount Forrest Griffin does not deserve to be ranked. But, hey, he is, whatever. I think they should put him back inside the rankings. Fuck discount Forrest Griffin. And realistically, this is the perfect time for this division. All the new guys, including the main event that we're going to talk about, are finally pushing out the older names. Luke Thomas said it, with lightweight. This is what is normally supposed to be happening when the division finally has guys that are aging out and the new guys finally start pushing through because they've been there long enough and they start beating a lot more of the top ranked guys. This is what you're supposed to see. Granted, Dalby wasn't ranked, and at the time neither was Randy, but this is leading into that as we're seeing with the main event. Good fight though, great fight. I was on the edge of my seat.
Just to clear, is discount Forrest Griffin Brian Battle?
I'm not gonna say his fucking name, Lazy.
Well, this should soothe your heart then. He is not ranked.
Good. Fuck him.
Yeah. So he won that split decision, but they did not award him with a ranking for it. So
Perfect.
good. Okay, well, let's move it along. From welterweight, we go back up to middleweight to find out what happens when a muscled up acrobat goes against a bus. Oh, sorry, a boost. Hulking middleweight man Michel Pereira, or is it Pereira? I don't know, met Abus Magomedov in a scheduled 15-minute contest. The number 14 ranked middleweight Pereira was TKO'd this past October by Fluffy Hernandez via ground and pound. Magomedov looking to keep his momentum going after beating Worley Alves by UD and submitting Bruno Fajeda. So, are better days behind these fellas? Perhaps, but honestly, it was kind of hard to tell. Not really sure. Genuinely puzzling performance from both men, particularly Michel. An all-around lackluster showing, with neither man taking the fight over to soundly secure the win. Our guy DM, not much to write home about in this middleweight pairing. I think a lot of people suspected at least one half of this fight to bring it, and they never really did. Do you got anything for us to add on Pereira versus Magomedov?
Yeah, for sure. The last fight we talked about was a real barn burner. Magomedov, should I say, versus Pereira, not so much. I can, however, engage in smug mode because it went almost exactly how I expected it to. I just thought that Pereira would be much more active in the first round, and then he'd fade away. Instead, he just didn't really seem to get going at all. And to say how much a lot of you guys dislike Sean Strickland, and you've suddenly put a lot of credit in him for beating up Abbas. And I think that people forgot that was a huge event for Abbas. He'd only been in the ring once before, in the cage once before. That fight lasted 19 seconds. This one was a main event against a big name. And I think he just had a massive adrenaline dump in that fight and then just quit, obviously, when Sean started to beat the crap out of him. And then his next fight, he lost to Kai Barallo. No shame in that one, obviously. But that was a third-round fight, a third-round decision win for Barella. And then his next fight, he actually won. That was a decision. And then after that, his fight was a third-round submission win. So he proved that he could go the distance. And I'm not saying he looked great. He's no Merab Devashvili. But he certainly kept the pressure on Michel for that fight. And Pereira is, of all his losses, about 2/3 of them come by way of decision. So it wasn't a surprise to see that result. It was a very middleweight win for Abbas, and it leaves him parked somewhere at the entrance to the top 15.
Yeah. To me, something felt off with Michel from like the time he got in there. Like he was conspicuously inactive, like not throwing next to anything for those first 2 rounds. Not attempting takedowns. He wasn't trying to do anything. Like, he was just skirting around the outside to the point where I was starting to question, like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, are you intentionally trying to lose this fight? Because this is weird. But I don't know. That was just me. But Austin, quite the average fight in this one. A win is a win, though. They're not all created equal, however, at the end of the day. So, thoughts on the fight, and does this type of win actually do anything for Abus Magomedov?
No, it doesn't. And here's the thing. Michel Pereira is not an elite fighter that we thought he was. When he made his first initial run inside of the UFC, he was just kind of like, being the acrobat who was a giant at welterweight, cutting massive amounts of weight to make welterweight as well. And then the minute he started, losing, he kind of got, exploited a little bit by a lightweight. He makes his way up to, getting another run. Doesn't fight very often, but he still kind of looks like he's kind of refigured his, dimensions of fighting, and then just doesn't work it out again. And then we realize, oh wait, this is kind of like an Anthony Rumble Johnson situation when he was cutting down to welterweight and then finally moves up to middleweight, and he looks like a goddamn killer again. Competition wasn't the best, but the guy was getting finishes very quick, very, very emphatic, right? You couldn't argue that he wasn't somebody to keep an eye on. And then he fights Fluffy, and the first thing we realize is that, oh, he doesn't really have a game plan. We thought he was getting technically better, but it turns out there was no technicality. It was just fight slightly smarter, hit hard. And if you can't finish him, shit. And that's what happened, because like he couldn't finish Fluffy, just got mauled for the next 20 minutes. And this fight showed it. He basically did not learn the lesson to take from that fight against Fluffy. It was just be smart about your cardio. You don't need to blast everybody in the first round, but you don't need to not have caution. He legitimately, like you said, just didn't want to throw anything. And I think it's because he's scared of getting gassed. Abus is not the dynamite striking dynamo that we thought he was, right? He just kind of showed up in this fight. I'm just going to take the center and just pressure forward. And then nothing happened. That was it. That was what this fight was. I'm looking at the fight and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck is happening here? Why are they on this card? Oh, wait, that's right. We thought someone was going to die. Okay, that's right. Might as well just throw these fucking guys. And I was going to get mad at Mouse because he took my middleweight thing. But because that's the truth. These guys should have been fighting in a main event at the Apex. Then nobody would have given a shit. One of them probably would have fucking died in the first round. But that's not what we got. The sad truth is that this does nothing for anybody because neither man was coming off an impressive win or loss. They were basically surviving. Middleweight is a real thing. And unfortunately, this is the cause of it. Abus gets this win streak. Good for him. I don't think he's going to beat his next opponent. And if he does, it's going to be a non-middleweight that's not going to be ranked. And Michel, unfortunately, has to take a couple of steps back. And if he can't beat his next opponent, I don't know what you do with him because he was on a streak. And then he just got executed by Fluffy, who's not even a real middleweight. That's the thing. That's a crazy thing. So it's again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. This is one of those divisions where there is real athleticism in this division, but goddamn, is it really hard to find.
Yeah. I think, like I said, a win's a win, but at the end of the day, to me, it was just more of a peculiar showing from Michel because I thought, like you kind of pointed out, Austin, that maybe he was saving himself and he was going to really let it go in the latter half of the fight. And he kind of turned it on in the third, but I felt like he never really put the pedal down. And that might be a theme that we run into later in this show. So we'll save that. All right. But moving on from that, it is time now for the feature bout. Two fun fighters at 145, known for their striking and stand-up abilities. The return of the Giga Kick, or so many thought. Number 12 ranked featherweight Giga Chikadze stepped in to take on a man with dynamite in his hands in the silent assassin David Onama. Chikadze, who turns 37 this summer, was coming off a decision loss to Arnold Allen last July. Onama last stepped into the octagon in November and was riding a 3-fight win streak. He also fights out of former James Krause gym, Glory MMA, so he is an area local who was sure to have some fans in attendance. The question I found myself asking was, can Onama be the first to impose grappling on the Asian kickboxer? Not particularly was the answer, but he did have moments. Took him around 7 minutes to finally get the hint, but he did eventually take down Chikadze, rather. Not a ton of action throughout this one, though it does mark now 4 in a row for Onama, who should wake up Tuesday morning with a number next to his name. We go to you first on this featherweight fight, Austin. 2 questions for you. First, your take on the fight itself, and second, did Onama prove anything to you with this win?
First one, it was a fight. It wasn't the most entertaining fight, but it was a good fight. And what I mean by that is Giga still showed that he still had competency in his striking. He's still dangerous. You you don't want to stand in front of that man and give him too many openings. And it showed that Onama can adapt. I think the biggest question for me heading into this was, like you said, can Onama prove that he's capable against a aging veteran, right? The last time he did this didn't really work out for him against Nate Landwehr, right? So, he's on a win streak now, 4 in a row. That's not easy to do. 3 in a row is hard. 4 in a row, the competition gets a little scarier the longer you get, down the stretch. And realistically, it proves that he can adapt. if he could understand that what I need to do is to change the dynamic of the fight, he can do it. And he proved that a little later than we would have liked, but he tried to stand, try to get his, hands going, and it's hard to do that against a really well-rounded kickboxer. I mean, hell, 2 or 3 times Giga may have caught him. If he committed to finishing him, he might have caught him, slacking a little bit. And, credit to, Onama's chin, because he got hit a couple times and managed to just stay alive. And the truth of the matter is that, is to your second question, I'm not ready to call him a top 10 guy or a top 15 guy. If he's ranked, great, good for him. I'm not going to say he's there yet. I would like to see him face a good opponent next, hopefully someone who is ranked and not unranked, who proves the point of, we probably shouldn't put too much effort into, putting a lot of stock into this guy just yet. I want to see him tested one more time. If he gets it and he does look very well, hell, you could put him against Yusuf Salah, and that'd probably be a good little scrap for him. And why not? You need a guy who's, coming off of a streak himself, didn't really improve in his last performance. Everybody's got to make a name off of somebody. There's only so many older veterans that you can take out in this division. And that's the thing too. Like we said with welterweight, featherweight's finally getting a lot more movement since the dumbass who couldn't make 145 pounds left his title. There's a lot more movement. I'm excited. This is exciting.
Yeah, I like that matchup with Salah, but there's only one problem. They come out of the same gym. They're both from Glory.
Damn it!
Yeah, because he was in Onama's corner last night with Mark Montoya.
I thought I recognized him. That's on me.
No, but I would love to see that fight, because I would like to. I was just going to say I would like to see him paired with somebody who's got a little bit of a mixed bag tool set, and somebody that's less of a specialist and somebody that's more well-rounded the way he is. Because as much as I liked the win last night for him, I found myself with some more questions walking away. Primarily his fight IQ. Like, brother, you had such an easy time taking down Giga. You know that's the path to victory. Why does nobody test this guy's fucking wrestling? Everybody wants to stay. It's almost like people treat it. It's like a mini Alex Pereira situation where people just want to stand and bang with the guy. Take him down. Wrestle him. It's fucking simple. You get him on his back. He doesn't do anything. He just lays there. Like, what the fuck? Take him down. What are you waiting for? Oh, my God. Anyways, opposite end of the spectrum for you, Mouse. Thoughts on the fight, and then also at nearly 37 with a limited bag, what is Chikadze's future in the UFC?
Well, the fight, Giga unwisely decided to bring his family to it. On the bright side, they didn't have to watch him getting massively beaten up or anything. Yeah, Giga looked effective at times. He's always dangerous with his kicks, and his boxing, while sloppy, still looked better than Onama's to me. Not that I'm an expert, I'll point out. And Onama just managed to get the fight onto the ground, and then, as you've said there, Lazy, Giga just accepted guard, and he just let up Onama have top position. And I think it was someone in the main comment chat said, "Why don't these elite martial artists know how to get up? Why are you just going to lay there on your back and accept punishment?"
Yeah.
I've seen Sean Strickland doing training sessions of this kind of stuff, and he's like drilling it into people. You do not accept a second on your back. You constantly try and get up. And Giga didn't. He just laid there and was like, whatever. I'll take my paycheck. I'll go home. I could even argue in some respects that you could have given at least one of those 2 rounds to him because he did more damage, whereas Onama didn't really do much with his time on top. He just held him down for the most part. Not a terrible fight, but not a great fight, as Austin also said. A decent fight. I won't go quite as far as to say good, but decent enough. Giga obviously getting old. Couldn't make. I presume it was Giga that failed to make weight this time, or was it Onama that failed to make weight?
It was Giga.
It was Giga. Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. In that case, then a move up to lightweight maybe if he wants to continue. Although stepping into that den of killers might not be the wisest idea. Yeah, I guess if he wants to fight, he'll continue fighting. Same thing as everywhere with a fight. He's not going to get a belt. That's pretty clear.
That is smart, though. Yeah, if he does stick around, a fresh coat of paint, up a weight class. Obviously, when you're having trouble making the weight and approaching 37, why not give it one final go at 155?
Yeah, I think last night the judges were in a mood to score top control, and they did in that one. So they gave it to an armor. It was a crappy but effective way to win a fight.
I will add that this is Giga's first time training with who is it?
Cub Swanson.
Cub Swanson. Yeah, so that might have been a thing where if you accept guard, you wait for them to stand you up, except Onama kind of played it enough to keep busy on the bottom. Or Giga forgot what the game plan was when you hit the mat, because it's not like Cub didn't have the most amazing takedown defense, but he knew what to do and he was on bottom. So maybe that's just a thing they haven't worked on as yet.
Hopefully, with what little time he has left, he shores that up, because it's always has been a gaping hole in his game. So we'll see. Anyways, we arrive now, fellas, at the co-main event. This one in the light heavyweight division, and a suspected swan song for a longtime UFC competitor. A young man with surging momentum fighting out of the Shandong province of China, 26-year-old Zhang Mingyang entered the night on an 11-fight win streak. His opponent, a man familiar to many, 59-fight veteran Anthony Smith. Even more of that if you believe what he says. Lionheart, who turns 37 himself this July, comes in off of 2 straight losses, including the absolute shellacking at the hands of Dom Reyes. As I said, this fight would mark the 59th and final fight in the career of Smith, a pre-fight proclamation that surely caused apprehension in bettors. At the end of the day, the question was simple: would the Mountain Tiger score himself a legendary pelt, or would Lionheart reclaim his title as the King of the Jungle one final time? It wouldn't be a good night for the desk analyst and podcaster. Zhang splits Smith wide open with a nice step-in elbow, and it's all downhill from there. Mountain Tiger finishes Lionheart with a ground and pound TKO 4 minutes and 3 seconds into round number 1. A victory that tied Zhang for the 3rd longest KO streak in the UFC. Amongst the people he's tied with, Tom Aspinall. That's pretty interesting.
Ooh.
So anyway, speaking of Tom Aspinall, the perfect man to pass it to, Mouse. The blood was flowing in this one, gathering in pools on the mat. It was a JBR special. Gotta love it. The end of a career, though, for Smith. Well, we can't say referee Jason Herzog didn't allow him to go out on his shield. Thoughts on the fight and any fond words for Anthony Smith in retirement?
Yeah, this co-main, it went the way that everyone was expecting it to go. If you were surprised by this result, I will hand over my coronet and ermine, and you can be the count of casuals. If you picked Anthony out of anything but loyalty, that is just unexplainable to me. Yeah, I've never heard Bruce Buffer announce a retirement while he was introducing a fighter. That was a bit of a novelty. I guess he stopped the option of Anthony saying no and decided I'm going to stay on. He'd look a bit of an asshole if he did that. Yeah, no hate on Anthony whatsoever. He's definitely had one of the UFC's fighters' careers.
Jesus.
Seriously, he's a tough guy, but it's a shame that I remember him from his bad moments. I remember him picking up his teeth up and handing them to the ref as Glover Teixeira pounded on his head. And then that infamous, the illegal knee from John Jones, where he had the light heavyweight belt in his grasp. All he had to do was say, I can't continue. And he gets the belt, pay-per-view points, a huge rematch with John Jones. But his honor stops him claiming victory that way. You should have snatched it up, Anthony. You should have seized the moment, but instead you went the honourable way, which I can respect. But what is honour? A word. What is in that word, honour? What is that honour? Honour is a mere scutcheon, and so ends my catechism. Bit of Shakespeare for you there.
Nice, man. JBR, this is a highbrow program, folks. Is that it? That was your ending there? That was good?
So yeah, anything else you wanted to get? I forgot kind of where you were going. Obviously, I had all this pre-written out. Obviously, Anthony's end of his career now. Go off into broadcasting, catching people at power slap events, or whatever the hell else he does in his time. His podcast, which I think I jokingly asked in the 420 show last week if any of us had seen it, and none of us had. Austin wasn't here, but so I could ask him, I guess. And Mountain Tiger, he was fed what he was expecting to get. He was served a dish of Lionheart, and he didn't hesitate in snatching it up and taking care of it. There were a few times when Anthony was curled up and he was holding him down and hammering away, kind of thing. I just kept thinking, why don't you just stand up? Because Anthony Smith, he's not going to be in any state to continue if you let him stand up. You're just going to knock him out. Yeah, just a real shame. I don't dislike Anthony Smith at all. But yeah, always sad to see a fighter go, I guess, in that way. But at least they gave him a very good send off. It's more than a lot of other fighters get.
Oh, it certainly was. As I pointed out in the main card mid chat, they gave him a much better, much grander, much more elaborate send off than they gave their supposed previous heavyweight goat, Stipe Miocic,
Yeah, exactly,
my guy, who fucking had to wait a week for his package to air in where of all places, Macau. Yeah, makes sense. Anyway, but yeah, my only real thing in this is a typical scenario. They feed the old to the young. You don't very often get to see the legends or your favorites in this sport go out, with their heads held high in triumph. They often go out on their backs. And while I get what Jason Herzog was trying to do and kind of let Anthony take a little bit more damage than maybe necessary, I feel like he probably could have stopped that a little bit earlier and saved some of those elbows from landing. But nevertheless, yeah, a happy retirement and whatever you may do in your future endeavors, Anthony Smith. You look to have a lovely family there that all look like a spitting image of you. So enjoy being a father and whatever. But yeah. Anyways, Austin, now on to you. We could all say that we're not the biggest Anthony Smith fans on this program. We nothing against it, but we're not huge fans. But we do give flowers where they're due. So thoughts on this W for Zhang Ming Yong, and then any well wishes for the newly retired Lionheart.
Yeah. The gentleman who how did you say his name again? Lazy? It blanked my mind. The man who won.
Ming Yong.
Ming Yong? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Zhang Ming Yong.
Zhang Ming Yong. Okay, so he looks like the real deal at light heavyweight, man. There's not a whole lot of killers in this division that are consistent. And it's nice to have a big hitter that's young in this division that can actually move up the ranks fairly quickly. He doesn't seem to mind just killing a lot of the old guys off. Matter of fact, I kind of like that. I kind of am a little bit different than most of the fan base because I do believe that's how the sport should work, where you have young guys face up against the old names of the divisions, kill them off or take their namesake because they have names that are built into the divisions or into the sport in general. And then that's how they build their resumes, right? Whereas a lot of fans really like their, the older name guys, the guys that they are connected to. And it's a lot harder to see guys that have resumes already built into the divisions and sports and whatnot, into the organizations get, murdered. It's not easy. I've had definitely my issues with it, multiple times on this show. But I think it's a necessary part of the sport. Young eat the old, and they got to create names for themselves somehow. And in this situation, it's kind of a, two double-edged sword. Yes, he finished him like he should have, but he finished Anthony Smith. That doesn't do much in this division. Granted, Anthony Smith was a one-time title challenger. Didn't really look like a title challenger the rest of his entire career, but, he could say he was there, and not many people get to say that. As far as Anthony, I did kind of want to go the heel route in this monologue that I was trying to work up in my head of burying the fucking guy, the very basic context of the package that he was given and how great it was. I actually got a little teary-eyed watching it because it was actually really good. I am not against somebody getting a retirement fight. I am not even against somebody getting preferential treatment in a retirement bout. But I do not believe Anthony Smith was so much deserving of it. I had my issues with that, but I'm not going to go with that. I'm not going to go with that. I'm not going to go with the way he broadcasts. I'm not going to go with his takes. I'm not going to go after him for his fight IQ or, the way he does. You know what you could say about Anthony Smith? He was too tough for his own good. He was a man who put himself in the line of fire more than he should have. As a matter of fact, had Dan Miragliotta been in the fucking cage with them, he probably would have stood them both up. Let Anthony take more fucking punishment. Stop the fight before it actually was supposed to be called multiple times where the horn sounds, and he's like, "Oh, you guys didn't hear that? No, Dad, no one heard that." But I'm going off on a separate rant. Anthony Smith is a guy who you can admire for the sheer fact that he showed up when he probably shouldn't have. He had a small run inside the UFC when no one gave him a chance. He was like in his 40th fight by the time he got into the UFC. This man is known for accruing damage. Matter of fact, Mouth said when he fought Glover Teixeira and his teeth were on the mat and he's picking them up, handing them to the fucking ref. And I told my wife that story. She's like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah, because that's what Anthony Smith is." He's the guy who just gets his ass beat and comes back. He's the one guy you can look at and say, "I hope you never fight again." And I truly mean that in a sincere way, because I no longer want to watch you take damage in front of me. I think you are a good man, and I think you are a great father, and I think you are a decent commentator. I do not need to see this man get bludgeoned to death in front of us. I do not need to pay to see that. I do not want to see that anymore in this organization. If he's going to do slap fighting, God forbid, I hope that's not the case, but just do the thing where you're just not involved in actually fighting or being in combat sports. Be on the adjacent side. Be a commentator. Be a writer. Fucking just be a vlogger. I don't care. I just no longer want to see a good person get hurt. And I think at a bare minimum, you can say Anthony Smith is a decent person. And that's not easy to say these days. So my hat's off to him. Congrats on your career, man. I in all sincerity, feelings on this situation. I hope I never have to see you fight again, because I think you are a decent person.
Well said. Very well said. You summed that up very good for the program, Austin.
Thank you.
Yeah. Last thing I will say, though, if anybody out there's got UFC Fight Pass, go back and watch Anthony Smith's 2 fights versus Josh Neer back in 2013, 2016. In the VFC, 2 fucking phenomenal fights, absolute wars in a square cage of all things. So go back, check those out.
Wow.
Yeah, that man had a career.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, you know what, fellas? That only leaves one thing. And you could call me Mr. Lazy Machado Betty, because I'm more than happy to share with you the fact that it's now time to recap our main event of the evening. Yeah, come on. What are you thinking? Anyways. Number 7 meets number 13 under the bright lights of Kansas City's T-Mobile Center. Ian let the bar watch Garry locked it up with the nightmare Carlos Prates in the 170-pound division. Not just UFC rankings on the line in this one, but also major JBR fantasy draft implications. For me, my number 1 pick, the Dart Dragon, toe tagging, fighting nerd, set to bring me home a possible 35 points. Woe is me, Team Lazy fantasy win was not meant to be. 5 rounds of pretty sound action that saw the first 3 easily going the way of the Irishman. The story began to change in the 4th as protests started coming on during the championship rounds. Things would turn a bit controversial, however, as the horn sounded and the 4th round ended with 5 seconds still on the clock and a very dazed Ian Garry. Something I'm not hearing a lot of podcasts talking about. The fuck, guys? Anyways, the 5th would see Carlos continuing to pile on, hurting Garry once again and sending him reeling. Then, in one of the single most frustrating moments I've ever had as an MMA fan, he failed to put the pedal down. As Ian Garry lay dead to rights, bumbling and crawling all over the octagon, the Brazilian could not find the finishing touches to secure what would have been an incredible comeback victory.
Carlos, no! He's dead to rights, Carlos! Finish him! Finish him, Carlos! Carlos, no!
This fight marked Prates' first time as an underdog in the UFC. I have scorecards, but I'll keep them to myself. I'll just say 3 out of 5 referees are stopping that fight in that 5th round. And for the love of God, Carlos Prates, stop touching fucking gloves. You got lured into a fucking sparring match and being buddy-buddy with this guy when you're supposed to be fucking killing him. Stop touching the gloves. Austin, you are taking the lead on this main event. I personally was out of my seat. I was screaming at my television. I was pleading with Carlos to please go, please finish the fucking fight. Talk about blue balls. What do you got for us on this 25 minutes that could have ended vastly differently?
You know what? There is a possibility that I felt like the same way a lot of people felt with Biggie Boy and Alistair Overeem a while back, a few years ago, actually, where Alistair just kind of put together a really decent performance. And like Prates, Biggie Boy really wasn't going out there trying to finish the fight from the get-go. He was just kind of there, right? Not known as the greatest, pressure fighter. With, he's got definite counterpunching ability, but, not the best for pressure adapter. Alistair kind of put forth a great game plan to kind of just lure him into like a sense of like, oh, I don't know what's coming next, like Garry legitimately had Prates kind of looking and not doing a whole lot. And I don't know if that was something that Prates kind of expected or just generally just thought, I have 5 rounds, and the time got away from him. Because you could see in the 5th round, like you said, Lazy, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, dear God, what are we doing here? You've wasted the first 3 rounds. You came back alive at the end of the 4th. And by the beginning of the 5th, you are not immediately going after him. You're not opening up. You're not giving him, you're giving him way too much space. You're not cutting off the cage. And by the time you actually do, he takes you down with very little, ease. And he countered the first couple of the takedown defenses. And the thing is, like, he actually looked decent in the grappling department when it needed to be. Like, he wasn't nervous. He wasn't in danger. He just kind of seemed like, all right, I know what to do here. I practice this. I'm trying not to gas. And that's the problem. He forgot he was in a fight. And like you said, Lazy, it felt like it was a sparring match because he just legitimately forgot, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to hurt this guy. I don't understand why they didn't in his corner tell him from the 2nd round on, okay, you gave away the first. We cannot afford to give any more away. You need to go out there and put punishment on the guy. It doesn't matter that he's actually controlling the pace. You need to take it from him. That was not in the corner at all. Matter of fact, I don't even remember what they even said because half the time I'm yelling at the TV louder than the goddamn commentary. Because it's like, what are we doing here? You're in the main event. You need to go out there and get the fucking fight from this guy because this is what he does. He lures you into a sense of false positive. And he essentially takes the ability for you to even pressure him away because he's doing it first. He's countering you. He's giving you something else to think about. He's trying to take you down. He's looking for that jab, and then he counters you with the high kick. He did what Prates should have done. And Garry's good. I'm going to give him credit for that. Garry, at one point, even just kind of was looking very great on his feet and putting pressure on Prates. And I think the problem is that, A, it's not so much that he didn't have experience, but B, we're finally seeing the limitations of the fighting nerds. When the lights are bright and they have the ability to kind of seemingly think, I have enough time to do what I need to do. It's only just a matter of time before I do it. And with Prates, this, like you said, Lazy, I was literally on the edge of my seat just going, what the hell are you doing, man? You have him hurt. He physically gets off of him and then lets the fight get away. Like he has him on his back, physically he has no ability to defend the punches at a certain point, and he's just like, I don't think I need to kill you just yet. What are we doing here? I don't think I've been more frustrated in a fight in a long time than this one. And it's not even that I'm mad Garry won. I'm more disappointed that Prates didn't show up until the end of the 5th. And even then, it was like, you're looking at this situation like it wasn't a cardio issue. It was a game plan. And by definition of what their game plan was, I think this is just asinine that we even got to this position to begin with. But good for Garry. He's definitely not getting a title fight anytime soon because you beat a number 13 guy, you don't get to just walk into the title fight. I'm sorry. But Prates needs to hit himself for a long time in the mirror and kind of question what the fuck the game plan was or whether or not he just kind of deviated from it. Right. That's for him to figure it out.
I think that at very least he's got to question what the fuck were you doing in that last 30 seconds, because that maybe even we'll call it the last minute, he had Garry done. Like, he was cooked. If he would have laid in a handful more shots, that fight is getting stopped. That fight's getting called off. In fact, I think if that was just about any other referee than dumbass Big Dan Murgliota, that fight might have got stopped as it was. I mean, don't get me started on Dan Murgliota, the man that was having issues throughout the entire fucking night. The guy couldn't tell. He couldn't tell the difference in the clapper and the horn. He didn't know what was going on. But just, I mean, come on, man. Like, just lay in a few more shots, a few more. That's all it would have taken. I don't know. But all credit to Garry, though, who like I said, soundly whipped his ass for 3 rounds, and it is what it is. Carlos never really turned it on. But the flip side of the coin here, Mr. DangerMouse, I'm pretty sure you were on the Garry side here for both predictions and Tapology, so I'm guessing you're happy with the W. But for Garry, the Garry fans of the world, rather, this had to have you raising your eyebrows some. Give us your takes on the main event and just how close you think we were to a stoppage in that 5th and final round.
Okay, well, Ian Garry gets second place for his entry song. I will say that. Eric Clapton, Layla, quality track. I know it's dedicated to his wife, but fair enough. Love that track. Yeah, before this fight, Ian Garry was just full of hype. He was saying he was going to destroy Prates, that Prates wasn't going to be the same after this fight. Not for a single minute did I believe any of that, but I was prepared to believe that he could go 5 rounds with Prates. And I wasn't quite so sure that Prates would be able to go 5 rounds, certainly not at pace. And he didn't do 5 rounds at pace. He managed to pick up his pace in the 5th round, going for that finish, which he didn't get. So yeah, first round easily Garry's, very much leading the dance. And then if there was any doubt about who was winning that round, he got the takedown at the end, landed a little bit of ground and pound, put a cut on Prates' cheek. That second round, you could see Garry getting into the flow. He was starting to get warmed up, really, really feeling himself, landing the better shots. And then the stats actually showed that the guys were landing around about the same percentage. The difference was that Garry had the volume. He was landing almost double, if I recall correctly. And the commentary team did come up and say that Garry had landed more strikes than Prates had thrown. I think somewhere around the 3rd round. Garry landing punches in bunches. Saw a couple of really nice flurries from him. He grabbed a couple of nice takedowns. Nothing much came of them, but he didn't overly pursue them. He just made Carlos think, and it just made it that Carlos couldn't have a Muay Thai fight. It wasn't going to be that fight. And I'm not sure who did plan this fight for Ian Garry, but they did a great job. And Ian Garry did a great job of executing his plan. Austin was just talking about Prates' plans, which he didn't implement. Ian Garry did, and that's why he won. Prates did manage that little bit of rally in the second 2 rounds, but he couldn't put Garry's lights out, and that's what he needed to do to win by that point. So yeah, a good main event, at least for those of us who picked Garry. Shout out to me and the editing team. The little clarification I have to do on this one, when we did the last week's show, the 50th, the 40-20 show, I said that either Garry would win by a 5th round decision or Prates would win by a 2nd round KO. So I picked Ian Garry on the MK Discord picks, and I picked Prates on the Tapology. So it cost me a result on that one. But yeah, nonetheless, I still went either 12 or 13 out of the card this week. Can't really complain on those. Yeah, a good performance by Garry. He definitely needs another win inside the top 5 before he gets a title shot. It was a decent performance, but at the end of the day, Prates is ranked outside the top 10. And as the number 6 guy, you're expected to beat him. I know it was a short notice fight. I think they only had about 25 days notice. That adds an extra flourish to the win. But yeah, you're still expected to beat him. You haven't really proved that much. except that you're perhaps a little bit better than a lot of people thought. Yeah, can't really say anything much more. Garry did a great job.
Yeah, he did. I don't know if you guys caught what Dana White said at the post-fight press conference, but
I did not.
Garry may not have to wait for a potential title shot because
Ah.
Dana did announce Ian Garry is the official backup fighter for the upcoming Bilal Muhammad versus JDM fight.
Oh yeah, he was saying he got tickets booked in one of the pre-fight interviews he did.
Yeah, Dana did say it's official. So should something happen and JDM fall out and Ian Garry can pass medicals, he may slot right in there. Deserving or undeserving. Yeah. Dana White privilege, huh?
I think I'd rather have JDM, thank you.
Nah, Bilal's got this.
Yeah, I don't think we got nothing to worry about. Okay, well, all right, you bastards. That was our main card coverage, and it is now time to highlight a couple of fights on the preliminary portion. In an effort to save some time, we're not going to cover all of them, but I understand that my guys, Austin and DM, each have a fight that they would like to highlight. So, DangerMouse, we will kick it over to you first. Which fight from the preliminary portion of this show would you like to show some love to?
The one that annoyed Austin endlessly because we said he asked me to discuss who we were going to pick, and I instantly claimed this fight as it happened, as I saw the KO at the end of it. Of course, I'm talking about Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cameron Simon, a KO first round, 1 minute 59. Cameron Simon, a name I remember as being touted as a future star, but he's just never quite lived up to his name. He is a mate of MMA Guru's, but Guru did say that Cameron had been avoiding his request for an interview, and that made him wonder if something was wrong. And I believe that Guru picked against him as well. Simon hadn't been in the cage for about a year since losing to the man with a hole in his soul, Peyton Talbot. That makes it 3 losses in a row. And I guess we'll see next week if he hangs on to his UFC contract or if it's back to the minors. No, did he? For Cameron. Wellmaker's a machine that Luke Thomas can get behind with his shirt off as well. Wellmaker, I must have seen in his fight on the Contender Series, but unsurprisingly, I didn't remember him. And in that fight, he flattened Englishman Adam Bramheld in the first round with a punishing check right hook, which is pretty much what he did in last night's fight, except this time it earned him $50,000. I picked this one fight on stats as much as anything else. And despite the fact that the zeros have been getting cracked all this year, I'm still almost always going to trend towards picking those undefeated guys. And Wellmaker is one of the lighterweight guys who can really bang. He's had plenty of first round finishes, and I was super happy when he made my prediction for this fight come true. This guy might be a good draft pick next year. He looked very calm in the cage, didn't let his UFC debut rattle him. He has a very dangerous right hand, and hopefully we'll see him at the Atlanta show. So yeah, that's mine. Pick up the scraps, Austin.
Oh, how dare you! Did you want me to comment on this one, Lazy, or do you want to?
You can if you want. If you don't want to, I do have something. A couple things I would like to say briefly about Wellmaker.
I'll be quick. Wellmaker kind of deceived me because I did pick him, but if you looked at his record, very suspicious can crusher style record. But like Mal said, he went in there and he proved the point. Cameron Simon, unfortunately, I think is on one of those trajectories where he just needs to go back to the regionals, or at a bare minimum, just take on some nobodies in the division just so he could get back on a win streak. He's young enough, and this division needs plenty of names, so I don't see them needing to release him. But UFC's going to do UFC things.
Yeah, all I wanted to say about Wellmaker is just that prior to even his Contender Series debut, and even with his limited record, every fucking podcast I watch that's like an insider with behind the scenes info and shit is fucking on this dude. They've been on this guy's train from the fucking start. And he's very, very late getting into MMA. The guy is 30 years old, making his UFC debut at a smaller weight class. He's going to have a very short window of time where he's going to be able to really capitalize on his skills and athleticism being at its peak. So I think that despite the limited fights in his pro career, we really got to kind of push this guy to the moon, and he's got to be balls to the fucking wall with taking tough matchups as quickly and as often as he can to try to get the most out of his potential while he's able to. So taking him next year in the draft might not be a bad idea, because I think this guy's going to be fighting quite a bit, probably as much as he fucking can. All right. Well, now also back to you, Austin. Same thing. Looking back at these prelim matchups, is there one that caught your eye?
Yeah, the opener, Jocelyn Edwards, Chelsea Chandler, and the reason why I picked it is because we don't really talk about the women's, divisions that much anymore. Mainly because star power isn't there, fights aren't there, especially for this division, 135. Apparently, they just kind of go into hiding every couple of months and then come out and then legitimately have a couple of fights and then go back into hiding. So it's not the favorite division right now in most of the sport, because women's 145 has been pretty much like murdered in the back of a shed. And 135 is not too far from there. But Jocelyn Edwards is, starting to get some momentum, and she got a first round finish. Granted, it was a questionably thin Chelsea Chandler. She looked good on this, for making the weight, but I felt like there was something off. She looked like she was too thin to the point to where she couldn't take a punch. Maybe that's the issue, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Jocelyn Edwards, though, first Panamanian in the UFC, and you forget that when you have divisions that don't have a whole lot of talent, sometimes that talent has to come from regions where there's not a whole lot of development there. Women's MMA included in that. They had Jocelyn Edwards, who's kind of like been trading wins and losses, with decent talent, but you wouldn't say they're killers. Her getting the finish and looking like she's actually growing into her body, getting actually acclimated to a fighting style is good. She's got decent wrestling. She's got decent power. She's got a chin, and she knows how to scramble. That's perfect for this division. She made weight. She hasn't always made weight. And I think it sets a good mood for the division when you have another name that's on a trajectory upward. So you need more of that in this division. Her last loss was to get against Eileen Perez, who's also on a momentum streak right now with a couple wins on her own. Bantamweight needs this, and it's great to see that you have more women finally getting back into the momentum of actually fighting regularly. That's great. You need more of that, especially 135. It was nice to see. I've kind of had an eye on her for a while. You just never really knew if she was going to take off. She finally looks like she's got something together, and I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, and definitely, like you said, it's a huge positive to see both these ladies make weight, because they've each had a history of kind of struggling to even make 135. So good on them on the scales. I don't know if something was plaguing Chandler, like you mentioned, but yeah, fucking nice win, nice finish for Jocelyn Edwards. Very rare in this women's MMA game today. Happy to see it. Okay, boys. Well, no weekend roundup is complete if we don't put down our arms, pick up the notepad, and place a number value on this here UFC event. So if you're ready, it's time to rate that card. So many numbers and so little time. I know you're over there pounding digits on your calculator, DangerMouse. So why don't you give the peeps your rating for UFC Fight Night Garry versus Prates?
On the whole, a pretty decent card. I think we had 6 finishers out of the entire fights, so more decisions than endings, but still pretty good. It's always the way that you tend to get finishers on the prelims more than the main card. We did that amazing fight with Dolby and Randy Brown. Fantastic KO there. As we say, a future KO of the year contender, no doubt. Yeah, pretty good card. I'm trying to think what obscure number I can give it, because I'm not going to downgrade this one. I quite enjoyed it. I will give this one 8.33. There we go.
Fair. That's pretty a lot better than I imagined.
What? Jesus Christ.
Higher than I anticipated. Okay, Austin, well, you seem pretty shocked by that 8.3.
I was very successful on the pick, so that enhances my enjoyment.
Yeah, imagine if you had gambled, man.
Yeah.
Okay, Austin. Like I said, you seemed pretty shocked by that score from DangerMouse there. So it was a fairly fun night of fights, or was it a total flop in your eyes? What's your rating for this fight night?
Well, it's just surprising that he gave it such a high regard considering the main event. I mean, I'm not going to call it a barn burner, but goddamn.
Yeah, but
You know?
unlike you losers, I picked Ian Garry. So
No, not even that. I'm just saying I didn't find the main event that entertaining. That's that. I don't
I
know how
re-
you could score it off of that.
I rewatched it this afternoon. It's a better fight on the rewatch than it was probably on the night.
Probably true, but still baffling nonetheless. I, I'm going to give it a 6. And the reason why I'm giving it a 6 is because A, you had a gymnastic score of an 8, I think is maximum that I would have given it, regardless of where it was. And you take it away because you're taking a point away from the main event. Prates did not show up until the final round, and by then it was already too late. Plus, fight IQ was not too great either from his part. Garry did what he needed to do. I'm not going to take a point away from him, but Prates deserves a knockdown on that. And then the co-main event, I think I had to take a point away just because of the way it was being put out. Again, it's not against Anthony Smith. I'm not a fan of seeing we need to see someone die every time kind of thing. Like I said, Dan Mergliotta probably would have let him die if we really had it, but thank God it was Herzog still. That takes a point away, so I'll give it a 6. The rest of the card was fine. I'm not going to have too much arguments over it. Yeah.
Why do I now have a vision of Dan Mergliotta raising his arms and saying, "Are you not entertained?" as the corpse of Anthony Smith falls to the floor?
Oh, speaking of Dan Mergliotta, I guess I got to give my score. The utter disappointment that I felt for Prates' inability to throw 3 fucking more punches to end the fight could only be matched by my exhaustion levels after how long that card seemed to feel. For whatever reason, that shit felt like it was 17 hours long. It felt like the longest card of the year. Not only did the fighters have miscalculations, but the referees and timekeepers did too. Big Dan Mergliotta seemingly had multiple strokes in the cage. Thought the clapper sounded like the fucking horn. I don't know what's going on there. Rounds ending with time still on the clock. And in the most important bout of the night, even Felder and Sanko had a rare off night on commentary. Nobody seemed to be on point. Everything felt discombobulated. It's just a strange night in the UFC. I feel kind of similar to Austin. If this hadn't been on the road and we'd gotten a couple of less finishes, I'd be a lot more harsh. But the best I can give this card is a 6, just ever so slightly above average.
I like this.
Yeah, just a couple of things I heard before we wrap things up. A Dakota fight seems to be in the wings for the summer. I know Liz Conwisha said she'd like to fight her. I'm not sure where she is in the tournament at the moment, if they're doing that. But yeah, come on, Dakota, fight in the summer, hopefully. And Tom Aspinall, I heard him talking today. He's not going to fight anyone else until he gets to fight for the belt. He's made that quite clear. And the UFC is apparently making sure that he's going to be well reimbursed for the time he's waiting. He's just waiting on John Jones. The number seems to be in his corner, and it's looking like John Jones is trying to artificially extend his reign so he can have the longest heavyweight reign and the longest light heavyweight reign as well. So fuck you, John Jones. Sorry, Lazy. Wrap us up.
No, that was worth mentioning. Fuck you, John Jones. That's right. Stop holding up the goddamn division and stop holding up our guy Tommy.
Yeah.
Fuck you, John.
Fuck you. Chickens can't be goats. Goat, chicken, duck. All right, well, alas, you filthy bleeders, another hour has come to a close, and we've reached the end of this 51st edition of the Roundup. From the bottom of our black hearts. And I do mean this, so allow me to take off the fighting nerd glasses when I say it. We do hope you've enjoyed yourselves with us today. Do stop back next week where our favorite Englishman DM will be hosting for Sandhagen versus Figgy in Des Moines, Iowa. Until next time, folks, they've been No Special and DangerMouse. I've been Lazy, and this has been the Weekend Roundup. We're out of here.
Drinky time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonder how
God
much
damn
over
it.
Fucking dog. You got to be kidding me.
That's carry.
Okay, the dog should be gone now, but I can't go high pitch because I'm on voice isolation. So.
Okay.
Do you still hear the dog?
Really a dog, yeah.
It's fine. Just roll. Just roll.
Jesus Christ.
It's a bit of fun. We'll blame Chatri or something.
This is a fucking disaster. All right.
You won't believe how many times I rehearsed this afternoon as well. It's always the way.